When I was very little, ever since I had a ball with me, I began to love this sport called football.
Mis inicios en Perú.
I started playing when I was in primary school in Peru.
Mis estudios.
I had a teacher who was a huge football fan.
Profesor, el cual era
He used to take us to a pitch and would go in goal and always have me on the opposite team.
Él se transformaba de arquero.
I'd get tired from scoring so many goals against my teacher.
Y yo me cansaba de hacerle goles al profesor.
From that early start, Teófilo "Nene" Cubillas would become perhaps the greatest Peruvian player to grace the game. He made his professional debut, aged just 16, with Alianza Lima, and by 19 was already an international regular. The standard bearer for Peru, his record of 26 goals in 81 appearances, stood for more than 3 decades.
Lo gracioso
The funny thing about my nickname, Nene, is that it started on a trip to Bolivia with Alianza. It was my first international trip. We were on the plane and the air stewardess asked what drinks we'd like. One of my teammates, Perico Leon Garcia, said bring him a glass of milk because he's a nene, which means baby. And from that point on, I was always called Nene. In football, I'm known as Nene Cubillas. That's me. Pelé was my biggest idol, ever since I saw him in a match between his side Santos and Alianza Lima in Peru. I was enchanted by his play, by his way of dominating the ball, with all the grandiosity that he would later show the whole world. He played the game in a style that was flamboyant, elegant, cheeky and skilled. I became a Pelé supporter, and to me he was, is and always will be the biggest football idol in my life.
That appreciation was mutual. After Brazil triumphed in the 1970 FIFA World Cup, Pelé would state that Cubillas was the rightful heir to his crown of best player on the planet. El Nene's performances in that tournament in Mexico had caught the great Brazilian's eye.
In my first World Cup, when I was 21 years old, I managed to score 5 goals. I was truly happy. We played against Brazil in that tournament, and they ended up winning the World Cup. I think that maybe if we'd played a different opponent, we could have advanced a lot further. We'd also played against Germany and Bulgaria. It was a wonderful World Cup though, and I remember it with great affection.
1970 triggered the golden era of Peruvian football. Their humble history on the world stage was suddenly transformed. They qualified for 2 further World Cups and won the 1975 Copa America, their first and last continental honor since 1939. El Nene was the jewel in the crown. By the 1978 World Cup, after a spell in Europe with Basel and Porto, Cubillas was back at Alianza and at the peak of his powers.
We arrived with modest expectations. But once we'd played as well as we did in the first round, suddenly everybody in Peru was no longer happy with our performances. They wanted us to win the World Cup. And obviously, in the second round, we came back down to earth and had to be satisfied with having appeared at another World Cup.
Despite losing all 3 games in the second stage, Cubillas had sparkled. 5 more World Cup goals included a hat-trick against Iran. And against Scotland, he produced one of the game's truly great free kicks.
Personally, I've always been content with my performances. I was always happy to have played the best I could. I gave my all. And I believe that's shown best by the respect I still get in my country, even today. You can imagine how happy I feel every time a fellow countryman gives me words of love and affection, and of how grateful they are.
The 1982 tournaments would be his swan song on the global stage. Peru went home without a win. But by then, his club career had taken him to Florida. And it's in the United States that Peru's greatest player, Teófilo "Nene" Cubillas, enjoys his life today.
I think the World Cup is football's greatest stage. It's like graduating after finishing your studies. If you never make it to a World Cup, it's as if you've never been through university. I think this is my biggest joy, to have played not one, but 3 World Cups. It gives me a peace and calmness to know that the profession I chose allowed me to be part of its greatest events. I can retire from life very happy. I can leave the world completely content with what I was able to achieve as a footballer.